From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku raises alarm over presence of terror cells in his state, seeks measures to exterminate them. Federal government asks Nigerians to take a stand and challenge evil as Nigeria marks 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. On the final in our series of 2021 review reports, tonight our focus is on foreign affairs. And on the foreign scene, Chinese city of Tianjin hopes to test 14 million people in 48 hours over COVID-19 cluster discovery. We begin tonight's news from the northeast, where Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku has raised the alarm over the presence of terror cells within his state. The governor says his government is in possession of credible information in this regard. He asks that a collaboration between social groups and security agencies is now absolutely essential.
In the person of DJ Gone.
The arrival of a state governor signals the commencement of the engagement for peaceful coexistence. It's been weeks of security meetings organized by Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku to nip in the bud emerging issues of insecurity as revealed by intelligence gathering. In one of such gatherings with residents at the grassroots, where the governor was coronated as protector and defender of the Jibu chieftain in Bali local government area of the state, residents through their traditional rulers restate their demand.
Muna da matsalan general hospital namu na Bali wadda muna so insha Allah in an samu dama a duba wannan. Dan na biyu muna da matsalan wuta a central zone gaba daya wadda a cikin rukunsa.
Governor Ishaku, on his part, promises to meet all their demands with immediate effect, but calls on traditional rulers in the area to work with security agencies to exterminate criminals.
It is also incumbent on the traditional rulers to take the lead in promoting peaceful cohabitation. Bali local government has seen its fair share of communal turmoil. As a result, I request you to work with the security authorities in your domain to root out criminal individuals.
Shortly after the meeting, both the chairman of the council and the representative of traditional rulers disclosed that they will take more drastic measures to ensure that criminal elements are smoked out.
Traditional councils are under the leadership of chairman of the local government. And if there is no that understanding between the chairman and the traditional council, then the security aspect of that place, it will not going to be in order.
The situation in Bali with the recent meeting that we held with our district head, village heads and RO, these people, they are coming in a large number, but we do not allow them.
Bali local government area of Taraba State has had its fair share of communal crises, and it is expected that authorities concerned will work towards stemming the tide for peace to reign, as well as attract more development to the area.
And moving right across the region to the northwest, where in Zamfara State, Governor Bello has attributed the most recent bandit attack on communities in Anka and Bukuyum local government areas to fleeing bandits who were dislodged from Shinkafi local government area. The governor, in a statewide broadcast on security earlier today, says the notorious bandit leader, Bello and his gang, are moving to neighboring local governments and unleashing terror on the way.
I visited the affected community yesterday, ordered reconstructions of the affected villages and provide food and other essentials commodities to displaced households. The operations to rule these bandits out of their new hideout are currently underway, and as soon as the reconstructions of the villages is over, the households will return to their communities and security forces will be stationed in the areas to provide reassurance to the people of that community. My dear people of Zamfara State, while we are concentrating with the various families and the communities towards the recent incident, it is not easy for us to take a step back and view the development in a bigger picture. The recent incident signifies that the North is starting on the bandits. They have been dislodged from their hideout. They have scampered to some new locations in the state of great trepidations. Many of their kingpins have been taken out by the recent military onslaughts. The current situation has left them with no option but to hang on whatever they call in order to survive.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the reported massacre of villagers by escaping bandits in Zamfara and vows no let-up in military operations. In a statement by his senior special assistant on media, President Buhari says he is outraged over the incident and insists on necessary action to curb further assault on the people. The statement reads in part, "In keeping with my commitment to tackle the monster of terrorism head-on, let me reassure these besieged communities and other Nigerians that this government will not abandon them to their fate because we're more than ever determined to get rid of these outlaws." President Buhari appealed to the affected communities for patience and extends his sympathy to the survivors and families of those killed. It's cheery news for the people of Kebbi State following the release of 30 students and one teacher of the Federal Government College, Birnin of the state, 6 months after they were abducted. According to a statement by the Special Advisor on Media to the State Governor, Mr. Yahaya, the students and teacher are expected to undergo medical screening and support from the state government while being reunited with their families. It will be recalled that on Thursday, October the 21st, 2021, 30 students of the school were also released and brought to Birnin Kebbi to be reunited with their families. This, in addition to some who were earlier released to their parents. The Nigerian Army has denied reports alleging that 2 soldiers and 7 illegal miners were killed during a gun duel arising from a disagreement over gold nuggets in Magama village in Jibia, local government area of Katsina State. The report alleged soldiers had turned down an initially agreed offer of 500,000 naira per pit from the miners, but afterwards turned around to demand more money on discovering the large quantum of gold nuggets found by the illegal miners in one of the pits. The Nigerian Army says its troops deployed in the northwest are committed and engrossed in the fight against banditry and other criminalities bedeviling that region. They're not permitted to participate in any form of mining, whether legitimate or illegitimate. And to mark the 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day, a special interdenominational church service is being held in the nation's capital as part of activities for the annual event. The service, which held at the National Christian Center, Abuja, has in attendance the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, and other service chiefs. Also in attendance are special envoys, including representatives of military organizations in some countries, as well as families of the nation's fallen heroes.
It's a solemn moment as families of the fallen heroes and veterans of the Nigerian Armed Forces converge on the National Christian Center, Abuja, for an interdenominational service to mark the 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Chief of Defense Staff, other service chiefs and some members of the diplomatic community in Nigeria are attending the service, which is characterized by hymns and song rendition by various groups in the church. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, takes the first reading from the book of Psalms, chapter 68, verse 1 to 35.
May God arise, make his enemies be scattered. May his foes flee before him. As smoke is blown away by the wind, may you blow them away.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, believes one way to honor the sacrifices of the fallen heroes is for Nigerians to unite against evil, just as he commends men of the armed forces for their resilience in confronting insecurity in the country.
All of us have a duty to take a stand and challenge these evils wherever they rear their heads, to prevent them from taking root and breeding conflict. This is how we will ensure that the labors of our heroes will never be in vain.
After the service, the Chief of Defense Staff expresses hope of improved welfare for troops on the battlefield.
I believe that, of course, as the economy improves, that the federal government certainly would do more in terms of increasing whatever provisions that have been made for the armed forces. But so far, so good, and I'd like to indicate that we are good.
The price officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces have had to pay for securing the country's territorial integrity and ensuring peace in the country is enormous. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Kano State government is hosting a prayer session for peace and security in Nigeria. The National Day of Prayer, held on Saturday at the Sani Abacha Stadium, was led by the world leader of Tijaniya Islamic sect, Sheikh Sharif Al-Bil Arabi from Algeria. He arrived in Nigeria in the company of other world-renowned prominent Islamic scholars. Our correspondent Nanching Vincent reports.
It's been a busy weekend in Kano State as the state government has been hosting the Tijaniya sect world leader Sheikh Sharif Al-Bil Arabi. He was received in a carnival-like environment at the palace of the Emir of Kano on Friday, January 7th. The following day, residents of Kano trooped to the Sani Abacha Stadium to seek divine intervention for an end to the security challenges in the country. The prayers were led by the visiting Tijaniya sect world leader Sheikh Sharif Al-Bil Arabi. President Muhammad Buhari, who was represented at the prayer session by the Minister of State for Agriculture, commended the Kano State government for organizing the prayer session.
It is no longer debatable that we have a million of security challenges across the nation. Yes, we are doing everything possible to support our gallant military personnel, but we also need divine intervention to seek the grace of Allah to end the scourge of insurgencies in this country.
The Kano State governor believes that the prayer offered will help in addressing the security challenges confronting the country and emphasized the need for such prayer session to hold annually.
We have to thank our ethnic nationalities whom we are enjoying staying together here in Kano for staying in peace and stability. We don't have tribal problems, no religious problems, and we assure you, here in Kano, we will organize prayers for this country every year.
In his message, Sheikh Sharif Al-Bil Arabi calls for peace and stability, urging Muslims to follow the footsteps of their leaders and sheikhs. From Kano Commercial City, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, More prayers for Nigeria. Plus, Governor Nyesom Wike declares 19 people wanted for illegal refinery operations, bans operations of commercial motorcycles in designated areas of River State. Join us again. Welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku raises alarm over presence of terror cells in his state, seeks measures to exterminate them. Federal government asks Nigerians to take a stand and challenge evil as Nigeria marks 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. On the final of our series of 2021 review reports, tonight our focus is on foreign affairs. And on the foreign scene, Chinese city of Tianjin hopes to test 14 million people in 48 hours over COVID-19 cluster discovery. The governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, has promised to redouble his efforts in discharging his duties as a governor with utmost sincerity, equity and fairness, without religious bias or ethnicity. Governor Bello stated this during the 4th Nigeria World Maulid anniversary held in honor of the Holy Prophet Muhammad in Lokoja, the state capital. He stated that as a leader, he will always uphold the tenets of justice and fairness to all, irrespective of religion, ethnicity, and background, in order to move the state forward.
The Muhammadu Buhari Civic Center in Lokoja, the state capital, is filled to capacity as Muslim faithful from all over the country converge to celebrate the 4th Nigeria World Maulid in honor of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with the theme, The Prophetic Solutions to the Questions of Humanity. In attendance at the occasion is the President General, Jamiatul Asaruddin Muhammadu Sanusi II, ambassadors of Morocco, Palestine, Mauritania, Cameroon to Nigeria, representatives from Senegal, traditional rulers and other dignitaries. Governor Yahaya Bello, who is the chief host, also arrives at the venue, and the program begins with Quranic recitation. The President General, Jamiatu Ansaruddin at Tijaniya, Nigeria, in his speech, applauds Governor Yahaya Bello for hosting the conference. He urged members of the organization to be steadfast as he directs them to obtain their voters' card to enable them vote for the best person, irrespective of political or religious affiliation.
We are not a political party, but we cannot fold our arms and ignore politics. Every member of Tijaniya who is 18 years old and above, male or female, go out and get a voter's card.
Governor Yahaya Bello, in his keynote address, preaches unity, love, and hard work as he charges Muslims in the country to take their destinies in their hands.
These messages are not far from the message of my dear loved one, President Muhammadu Buhari. President Muhammadu Buhari always preached the message of peace, unity, and hard work. And he has always said, Nigerians, take your destinies in your hands.
Highlights of the occasion is the presentation of Holy Quran to Governor Yahaya Bello by the representative of the Grand Khalifa worldwide, Sheikh Mohamedou Lamine Iyas from Senegal. As Muslim faithful return to their destinations across Africa, they are optimistic that the country will experience divine intervention in line with the prayers offered.
Leaving prayers now, the Yobe State government says it has expended over 4 billion naira for the construction and rehabilitation of 137 primary healthcare centers across the state to bring the facilities closer to the doorsteps of residents. Speaking in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, Commissioner for Health, Dr. Lawan Gana, explains that a good number of primary healthcare centers have been upgraded to specialist hospitals in the major cities to provide secondary services to residents.
This is Damazai, a community in Fika Local Government Council of Yobe State, which lacks social amenities, especially access to health facilities. Most of the inhabitants are farmers and petty businessmen, but do not have potable drinking water, as well as access roads to transport their farm produce to close-by markets.
Da abin da ya san ba a kawo ma anan mu sai mu dauka mu kai kulmin ko doga bare ko yaro aka si ba jini mu je a nuna can a dauki jini a je a yi kokari a da ai ka san dadin asibitin ka san lalacewa ta gaba daya to ka gani ne wakil duk lokacin da muka je gidan sarki ina mu kokan nan asibiti.
The state government says it has spent over 4 billion naira to construct and rehabilitate 137 primary healthcare centers across the state, which Damazai community is a beneficiary of, and 42 others will be embarked upon. Also, the largest women and children hospital in the northern part of the country is nearing completion in the state capital.
The purpose of this building is not only to reduce the maternal morbidity and mortality through providing the services. No, also teaching of the medical student there is very important. Also, it also serves as a research center. Teaching and research center for the student, teaching for the academician. Also, in addition, it serves as a national and also regional referral centers for all the women and children related morbidities.
It's not just nomenclature. It also has to do with personnel. We send specialists. We've partnered with other tertiary institutions around us for they come and government sponsors them and supports them to provide specialized services in those centers. And then the second thing is that government upgraded the laboratories of all these centers. We bought His Excellency Honorable graciously approved for the procurement of additional laboratory equipment for those centers. In addition to that, also radiology equipment were also procured and distributed.
No doubt, the construction of the primary healthcare centers, if properly put to use, will reduce children and women mortality in the rural communities.
And moving on to South Nigeria, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has declared 19 suspected kingpins of illegal crude oil refining wanted. Governor Wike made the declaration in a statewide broadcast, the second to be made by him this new year. Governor Wike in the broadcast also says those illegal bunkering activities in Okrika communities, Port Harcourt Township, Rivers Southeast and Rivers Southwest senatorial districts have been identified and their names would soon be published if they fail to voluntarily report to the police. He also directed the head of service of Rivers State, Rufus Godwin, to query a director in the Ministry of Energy who is reported to be abetting bunkering activities in the state with his official position and hand him over to the police for investigation and possible prosecution. The Rivers State Governor also restated his determination to tackle other social challenges like illegal trading and the contravening of the use of motorcycles in Obiapo and Port Harcourt local government areas.
In our 2022 New Year message, we express the commitment and determination of our government to consolidate on the security gains of 2021 to further safeguard lives and property across the state. We promise to continue with the demolition of shanties and other illegal structures which are being used by criminals as hideouts for their operations. We reminded residents of the existing ban on street trading and the use of motorcycles for shuttling and related purposes in Obiapo and Port Harcourt City local government areas. We also promise to pragmatically tackle the soot pandemic by destroying and or closing down illegal crude oil refining sites and activities in the state. We further outlawed the indiscriminate display or posting of advert materials of any kind, including handwritten inscriptions on our flyovers, bridges, and the safety barriers along the road and under all the flyovers. We also directed local government chairmen to take measures to stop the indiscriminate and prolonged parking of trucks on our roads, as well go after and destroy all illegal crude oil refining sites and activities in their local government areas.
The President, Muhammadu Buhari, will on Thursday, January the 13th, embark on an official state visit to Ogun State to inaugurate some of the infrastructure projects executed by Governor Dapo Abiodun. According to a statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Kunle Shumori, President Muhammadu Buhari will be welcomed at the Gateway City Gate Monument Park, Shagamu Interchange at 10 a.m. for the commissioning of the first project. The statement adds that apart from the Gateway City Gate, other projects to be inaugurated by the President include the Ijebu-Ode-Mojoda Ekwe Expressway and 2 housing estates, the 527-unit low and medium Kobakwe housing scheme, Kobakwe, and the highbrow 83 duplexes at King's Court Estate at Ukemoson, Abeokuta. In the year 2022, the federal government will be aggressively pursuing strategies and policies to tackle the biggest fears expressed by potential investors and those who want to expand trade frontiers from Nigeria outwards. That's according to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mr. Niyi Adebayo. He told Channels Television's Ladi Akeredoluwale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that issues of power and insecurity will be even more persistently targeted this year. The minister says anyone who wants to trade in Africa must start from Nigeria.
First of all, the major fear is really security. And then there's the issue of power. And then there's the issue of general infrastructure, really. I mean, you know, roads, the delays at the ports and things like that. And we have been giving them, we've been explaining to them what the government is doing to solve these problems. With regards to power, we are aware that there's a power problem. So, however, based on that, what we're doing in our ministries, we are embarking on the creation of special economic zones, special industrial parks, which will have embedded power. They'll have all the infrastructure that is necessary. So anybody who's come to set up a factory needs to do is just go into that industrial park. You have your power, you have your water, you have the roads. You know, so those are measures that we are taking. Another thing that we're doing is that many industries are setting up their own power plants, and the government has started spending a lot of money with regards to setting up pipelines, gas pipelines, spreading gas pipelines all over the country. So you can easily tap into the gas pipeline, access the gas, and power your plant for yourself. And what we're trying to do to help manufacturers, because of we feel that the price that manufacturers are being charged for gas is rather too high. It's not making them competitive enough. We have engaged with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources with a view to seeing how we can have the price of gas reduced to make it readily available at a competitive price for manufacturers. If you want to do business in Africa, you must start from Nigeria. Africa has a 1.3 billion market. Out of that 1.3 billion, over 200 million is in Nigeria. So your best bet is to start from Nigeria and then move out to the rest of Africa.
And for the full interview with the minister, do watch Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, the 10th of January 2022 at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. And still ahead on the news at 10, the final in our series of 2021 in Review segments. Tonight, it's Foreign Affairs. Join us again. Welcome back. For Nigeria to make the best of its projected population explosion by 2050, it must now begin a deliberate and calculated investment in its youth. That's according to speakers during a youth-focused conference organized by the General Superintendent and founder of the Deeper Christian Life Ministry, Pastor William Kumuyi. The speakers advocate a sustained effort to investing in the youth, whom they describe as the future of the nation.
We all say, number one, thank you, mommy. Number two.
By the year 2050, Nigeria is projected to be the third most populous nation of the world, with over 400 million people. And the virtue in that projection is the reason Pastor William Kumuyi is bringing youth together for this event, codenamed Impact. For the organizers, the essence of the conference is to prepare the youth for the future and get them ready for prevailing challenges.
When God made everything that he made, what did he say? He said they were all good. You are all good. God did not create a failure, and none of you will be a failure.
Guest speakers take the youth on the need for them to take responsibility for their actions.
All I'm going to say to you is this: what you make of your life is your choice. Every opportunity will be given to you. Sometimes the world will not give you what you need, but if you know what you want, then you will learn to fight for what you need to be who you want to be.
Pastor Kumuyi challenges the participants on following worthy examples.
It's time for you to fly. And I'm still flying. I still have vision. I still have goal. I still have project. I still have a lot of things. If I'm still flying, come on, follow after me. Follow after me. Come on, catch up with me. And then go beyond. Then I will see you up there. I will say, I hand it over to you. It is your time.
On the sideline, Mrs. Awishika says she's taking up the challenge to share from her experience with the young minds as a contribution to molding a strong future.
We have a responsibility to invest the best we can, to lay a good foundation, to share our thoughts, and to continue to engage.
While the conference winds down, there are recommendations, among which is the need for government and other policymakers to mainstream youth development initiatives, fund and implement more youth-focused intervention programs.
Stanza one only.
And now to the final of the review of our 2021 reports. And I have joining me on the news at 10, the head of our Foreign Affairs desk, Amarachi Ubani. Hello, Amarachi.
Hi, Bukola. Great to see you. So 2021 was a pretty interesting year, and I'm sure you witnessed that. A lot of activities happening, from the Capitol riots in the U.S. to the Haitian president who was assassinated to the coups in Africa. I mean, there was just a lot more. Take a listen. In 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari was on the move, visiting various countries, from the UK for the Education Summit in July, the United States in September, where he addressed the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, and Istanbul for the Turkey-Africa Summit, amongst others. But apart from traveling out, a handful of world leaders also visited the president in Nigeria. In December, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa made a stopover with an aim of strengthening relations. The president also received the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. Unfortunately, the year 2021 was also a year which highlighted the treatment of Nigerians abroad, namely the mishandling of a Nigerian diplomat by immigration officials in Indonesia.
And this was a clear breach of the Vienna Convention, and
an act of egregious international delinquency.
Nigerians also mourned the death of a young woman, Itunu Babalola, who was said to have been wrongly jailed in Côte d'Ivoire. And amid a diplomatic row between the United Arab Emirates and Nigeria, resulting in continuous flight bans by both countries, Nigerians living in the UAE also face difficulties due to work permit restrictions. Elsewhere on the African continent in 2021, there were 4 successful military takeovers across the continent in Chad, Mali, Guinea and Sudan, up from just 1 in 2020. Another point of concern was the Ethiopian conflict, which worsened, resulting in the death of thousands and displacement of millions more. We also saw the unexpected death of Chadian President Idris Deby on the battlefield just hours after he was declared winner of the presidential election. Tanzanian President John Magufuli also died, leading to the appointment of the country's first female president.
It is truly disheartening.
Former South African President Jacob Zuma's tussle with the law also caught up with him, leading to his imprisonment for 15 months in June for contempt of court. The move resulted in days of rioting, which left about 300 people dead. Away from the continent, the United States, long the champion of democracy, saw its peaceful transition of power disrupted for the first time in its history by the January 6th insurrection, which saw former U.S. President Donald Trump supporters storm the U.S. Capitol building. Nonetheless, Joe Biden was sworn in as the 46th U.S. president on January 20th. Kamala Harris sworn in as the first black and Asian female vice president of the United States. The U.S. war in Afghanistan ended as it started 20 years earlier with the Taliban in power. Kabul fell on August 15th, trapping thousands of foreigners in the capital city and leading to panic and a chaotic effort by Western forces to evacuate. On July 7th, Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in his private residence in the capital, Port-au-Prince, plunging the country into chaos. The climate crisis was also a major highlight of the year, with several extreme weather events from floods in China, Sudan, Malaysia, France, Spain, to typhoons in the Philippines, hurricanes and tornadoes and storms in the US, and destruction in Haiti, and wildfires in Europe, Africa, and the United States. Leaders including Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari met in Glasgow in November for the COP26 summit, which was billed as a last chance to save the planet.
In a bid to commit to transitional change through climate policy, the revised national policy on climate change was approved in June 2021. This will enable us to implement mitigation measures and also strengthen adaptation towards a sustainable climate resilient development pathway in Nigeria.
For a second year, COVID dominated the lives of many around the world with the fast development of vaccines. More than 7.4 billion vaccine doses were administered in 184 countries in the first 11 months of 2021. But the year ended with the emergence of a new highly transmissible variant, Omicron, crushing hopes that the world would bid farewell to the pandemic in 2021. Very interesting. Many of the issues that were raised in 2021 are still being discussed, carried over from the previous year into 2022. Kola.
So, Amarachi, speaking of carryovers, what stood out for you of all these events in 2021?
I think it will have to be the 4 coups that happened in West Africa or in Africa in general, and that's because I think about 3 of them took place. No, 2 of them took place in West Africa, and they hit pretty close to home. Mali, and then I think the coup in Guinea, and Africa's efforts to try to get, the military, which seemed to be making a comeback out of power, unsuccessfully, it seemed. Despite the sanctions on the Malian junta, as well as the ones in Guinea, despite, the threats made and the appeals that were made, it just seemed like, they were just heading for, hitting a brick wall, I think. And then, of course, there was, the crisis in Ethiopia, because, not much information was coming out of there. And Nigeria got involved. Our former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was also there, trying to negotiate between the president and the Tigray rebels and all of that. And then, of course, the riots in the U.S., the Capitol riots, of course.
Indeed, I understand why it stood out for you, because it has many ramifications for Nigeria as a power in the West African sub-region. Thank you, Amarachi. Head of our Foreign Affairs Desk, Amarachi Ubani. And we have joining us now to talk more about events in 2021 on the foreign scene, Professor Chris Isike. You're welcome to the News at 10, Professor Isike.
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening to you and your viewers.
Yes. 2021 was an interesting year for Nigeria. Bilateral, multilateral meetings and issues, summits as well. Do you think the country cemented her position as a major player on the global stage?
Well, it did. It was at least it was there. It was a player, and I would say that even though the COVID-19 pandemic impacted on things negatively, especially as it has to do with economic growth and opportunities, for many countries, including Nigeria. Nigeria, can say had a respectable, time out there in the international scene in 2021.
Now, looking ahead, the world is still fighting a pandemic and Nigeria is still acquiring vaccines. The president has asked scientists in the country to develop one. Do you think it could happen this year?
Well, it should have happened a long time ago, from last year when the COVID-19 pandemic started, and we're all sitting waiting for the West to develop and send us vaccines. I'd asked the question of why we couldn't think of, developing our own vaccines. And I'm happy that we are beginning to look inwards and think along those lines. With cooperation with South Africa, I'm sure that Nigeria should be able to develop needed vaccines this year. We have the talent. All we need is the support from the right quarters in government and business, and I'm sure that we'll be able to come right with that.
So what should now shape, going forward, what should shape Nigeria's foreign policy in 2022?
Well, there are a number of issues. For me, Africa, for example, cannot be a free trade area until all member states remove the obstacles that hinder Africans from trading freely. And these are not just structural, or formal, but they are also infrastructural. So Nigeria should be at the forefront of, driving Africa to be intra-trade compliant, and outside West Africa, it must take this issue head on with South Africa, which drives intra-African trade on one hand, but put clogs that hinder, equal participation in its economy from African countries such as Nigeria. For example, apart from the trade between both countries, Nigeria and South Africa, which is heavily skewed in favor of South Africa, South Africa continues to impose heavy custom duties on goods such as foodstuff from Nigeria, which the huge West African community in South Africa needs. Now, this affects, prices at the consumer level, but also makes the cost of trade too heavy for Nigerian traders importing such items, into South Africa. So, if we are really serious about intra-African trade, we will realize the significance of, opening up all markets equitably for all small and medium-scale businesses which drive economic growth, as we have seen in the case of China. That's one. For me, Nigeria should also focus and take advantage of the shifting U.S.-Africa relations in 2022. The competition between China and the U.S. in Africa is making the U.S. shift in its approach towards Africa, as it is now beginning to see the continent as an equal partner and not just as a subordinate actor as it has always seen and treated Africa in the past. There are significant human human security initiatives in the Biden's administration's five-pronged U.S.-Africa policy, which Nigeria can benefit from and also enhance what we're already getting from the military security focus of the U.S. Africa policy. And just one last point, within this discussion of Nigeria-U.S. relations, Abuja should also start paying serious attention to the soft power value of Nigerian Americans in the U.S. Apart from the billions of dollars they send back as remittance yearly, they have agency as foreign policy actors for Nigeria. So the government would do well to start getting them organized in the national interest and support them to become, an influential, lobby group like other immigrant communities in the U.S., such as, the Jews, who play a very significant role in lobbying the U.S. government in favor of Israeli interests globally.
Indeed, we want to thank you very much, Professor Chris Isike. He's the President, Africa Association of Political Science. Thank you very much for your time and thoughts on the news at 10. And now to the foreign scene. Kazakh media is reporting at least 164 people have died during violent anti-government protests. The demonstrations, which started on January the 2nd, were triggered by a rise in fuel prices and reflected discontent at the government and former President Nursultan Nazarbayev, who led Kazakhstan for 3 decades and is still thought to retain significant influence. Security forces say they killed rioters in Almaty while trying to restore order, and that protesters had tried to take control of police stations in the city. President Kasim Jomart Tokayev says he told security forces to fire without warning. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken criticized the shoot-to-kill order and called for it to be rescinded. China's Tianjin city hopes to test as many as 14 million people living in the city within the next 48 hours following the discovery of a cluster of COVID cases. Of the cases discovered, 2 are the highly transmissible Omicron variant. Residents are being advised to stay at home until they are tested, and they must return a negative result to get the health pass needed to use public transport. While other countries in the world have opened up following vaccination campaigns, China has responded to small numbers of local cases with mass testing and tight lockdowns. Sports news now. After a 50-year wait, Cameroon officially kick-started the 33rd Africa Cup of Nations with a colorful opening ceremony. Captain Vincent Abubakar then gave the fans something to celebrate, scoring 2 penalties as the hosts beat Burkina Faso 2-1 in Yaoundé earlier today. Gustavo Sangare had put Burkina Faso in front at the Olimbe Stadium, but Abubakar's double turned the game around before halftime, and there were celebratory fireworks at full-time in the stadium, where Cameroonian President Paul Biya and FIFA Chief Gianni Infantino were in attendance. The second Group A match, Cape Verde defeated Ethiopia 1-0. The Cup of Nations delayed by a year because of the pandemic runs until February the 6th. After a 50-year wait, Cameroon officially kick-started. We've brought you that report. In the Nigeria Professional Football League, MFM FC beat visiting Abia Warriors 2-1 to pick their second successive home win this season. The Lagos-based team now have 6 points from 5 league games. Lobi Stars of Makurdi beat reigning champions Aqua United 1-0. Remo Stars maintain the lead at the top of the table following a 1-0 win against Plateau United. They have 11 points from 5 matches. 7-time champions Eyimba International beat 3SC 1-0. Sunshine Stars beat Kano Pillars 3-0. In other league games, Kwara United and Rangers International played a 1-0 draw. Dakada beat Nasarawa United 2-1. World number 1 Ashley Barty was in imperious form as the Australian handed Elena Rybakina a 6-3, 6-2 defeat at Memorial Drive to win the Adelaide International and claimed the 14th WTA title of her career earlier today. Barty dominated against the 22-year-old 7th seed from Kazakhstan to win in just over an hour as she hits from a little more than a week ahead of the start of the Australian Open in Melbourne. Both women will now head to the Sydney Classic, the final warm-up before the Australian Open, where they are drawn to meet in the quarterfinals. Elsewhere, Denis Shapovalov and Felix Ugalasime put in commanding performances against Spanish opponents to win their respective singles matches and fire Canada to the ATP Cup title. Shapovalov showed penalty of aggression to beat Spaniard Pablo Carreno Busta 6-4, 6-3 in the opening singles rubber to put Canada one win away from winning the $10 million team-based competition. World number 11, Olga Alasime, then served strongly to take down Roberto Bautista 7-6, 6-3 and give Canada an unassailable 2-0 lead in the tie. Finally tonight, and to the arts. Now I Wear Myself is an exhibition by contemporary artist Jacqueline Sowari. Art Review presents the works, which includes portrait, paintings and installations. This touring exhibition of her large-sized images has found its way from the nation's capital to the commercial city of Lagos. The theme is unchanged as artist Jacqueline Sowari is revealing her paintings, installations, and performance art at the African Artists Foundation.
The reason why I chose the title Now I Wear Myself is because I want people to live their most authentic lives. I believe that in this world we are put here like a puzzle, there's a giant puzzle, and if everybody is shaped in a unique way, and if we're able to bring what we were created with to the table, the world would be a better place. These installations suspended above the ground still take that formative technique, encouraging people to be true to themselves and not to try to be crowd pleasers.
It's more or less like calling every one of us to begin to have a definitive approach to what we do. And in defining it, it shouldn't be what the society defines for you. It should be what you define for yourself, right from your intuition. That is from the inside to the outside. If you look at the various artworks that the artist has done, a lot of them they all have stories behind them. And there are stories that are enough to inspire every one of us. Just like she said, each of these artworks represent one of us, represent each of us. So what do? We have to go and find ourselves. We have to start proudly wearing ourselves.
The artist has a sit-down with art patrons to explain the idea behind the exhibits to a curious audience intrigued by her concept.
This particular piece is something that is so powerful to me and inspires me every day, because you have to keep moving irrespective of what comes your way.
The highlight of the event is a performance involving the artist, which reveals her versatility and ability to embrace and utilize her many God-given talents.
Sometimes the weight you need to lose is not on your body. A face can tell a story without whispering a single word. Wear your victories, wear your battle scars, wear yourself. Wear yourself. Wear your struggles, wear your dreams. Take pride in who you are. And always remember, there is no courage without fear.
And the main news again. The Taraba State Governor, Darius Ishaku, today raised the alarm over the presence of terror cells in his state. He sought measures to exterminate them. Also today, the federal government asked Nigerians to take a stand and challenge evil as the country marked the 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. And also, the Chinese city of Tianjin announced plans to test 14 million people in 48 hours over a COVID-19 cluster discovery. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. From all of us here, it's good night.